Hello, hello. Light of the Infinite Festival. We are back through really, really special times. Rosh Chodesh Iyar is upon us. The new moon is coming. And we're in a very powerful time of Sefirat HaOmer as well. Before we go anywhere, I would just like to dedicate this Shir Torah, B'zchut all of our holy soldiers, that B'ezrat Hashem should make them successful in their mission of taking care of what needs to be taken care of, bringing our people home safe, and B'ezrat Hashem to seeing peace on every one of the front lines. The front lines in the Holy Land, the front lines on college campuses, the front lines wherever they may be, we should find peace. Maybe we'll start with a little nigun, because we know that Torah is not for the mind, but Torah is for the heart. P'tach libi b'toratecha. He who opens our heart to Torah. Yam We're in very powerful times. Sefirat HaOmer, counting the Omer, which are the 49-day period between the beginning of Pesach and Shavuot, the holiday of redemption and the holiday of actualization, the holiday of us really meeting Hashem in the highest places and receiving the Torah. But what is this process that we're in? Why do we have these interim days? Why can't we get the Torah, get liberated from Mitzrayim, and then go right to the Torah? So we know historically, the Jews were not at the highest spiritual levels. Let's be real about it. We don't have to lie about where we're at. We were not at the highest spiritual levels, as even the angels turned to God and they said, why are you redeeming the Jews? These ones are serving idols and these ones are serving idols. Both the Mitzrayim and the Jews were doing it. Why are you redeeming them? But Hashem deep down has a place in his heart, in the inner sanctum for light in this world, and he chose Am Yisrael. He chose Avram's descendants to be on the forefront of bringing light. And in doing so, Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim with kindness, with love, not because we were holding the greatest levels, and brought us, and it gave us the space for us to do some real inner work. And through that inner work, day by day, honoring all the different parts of who we are, we can go and approach Har Sinai. Okay, so what is the inner work we're talking about, though? What are we doing inside of us? What is this process? Why is it called Sfirot? And what are we doing in order to reach this pinnacle experience of receiving the Torah? And we know we didn't receive the Torah once. This year again, on Shavuot, we are going to be receiving the Torah anew. It is going to be a new Torah for every single one of us. So what's the work we need to do in order to actualize a relationship with Hashem? So, a beautiful place to start is we look at the word Sefira itself. This is called Sefirat HaOmer. What does Sefira mean? So, there will be multiple interpretations. On the classical level, Sefira means to count. We are counting from the time we brought the Omer offering on the second day of Pesach till Shavuot. But more than just to count, Sefira also means a story, or to tell a story. L'saper sipur. One of my favorite is Sefira. Comes from the word radiance and shining. And maybe most beautifully and most deep of all of them is Sefira comes from the word sapphire. Yes, you heard me right, sapphire. That blue gemstone that is kind of elusive. We're not really sure what sapphire is. Gems, is that a Jewish thing? Well, stay tuned. We might find out. And so why don't we go through these four definitions and see how each of these relate to what the Sefirot truly are. We said it means counting, it means telling a story, it means radiance, and it means sapphire. So first and foremost, the Sefirot are accounting. We count these days, but we also know that there's the embodiment of the form of the Sefirot. And for whoever wants to see this themselves, go to the flyer for this awesome event. By the way, shout out to Brother Erez for putting together such a sweet thing. And if you look at the flyer, you'll see this cool geometric shape on it. It has a bunch of dots. It has lines interconnecting them. What is going on with all these shapes? So, in short, this is the secret of what, in the beginning of creation, God said, let us make man in our image. Now, does God have an image? No, but God utilized a certain geometric shape in order to go from the infinite, from the great beyond, to the finite, to this physical reality. And a human being, he is the mirror. She is the mirror representing this divine order, this divine ladder, how you go from the great beyond to finitude. I know that was a lot, but you're doing awesome. Stick with me. So, why do we need a bridge between the great beyond and this world? Well, the great beyond, imagine you have a floodlight. You're at a baseball game, and there's these huge floodlights. And then would a friend ever come to you and be like, yo, dude, can you turn on your little flashlight to give me a light? Nah, man, there's already so much light. I don't need your flashlight. Your flashlight's tiny and insignificant. But if you're in a dark room and you're trying to read some Torah, obviously, then when you light a candle, that candle, has such a big effect. So in essence, the infinite light of Hashem is this infinite experience where a smaller light, our finite reality, can't really exist within it. With me still? Awesome. So Hashem utilized and employed this structure of Sefirot, the structure of call them chambers or energetic worlds, where the light went from larger to smaller to smaller to smaller. And it got filtered so contracted enough that we could live in a reality that could potentially even deny there's a God. That's how good God was at contracting the system. And through this system of Sefirot, it allows us to give a counting of 10. And we know that in our current mathematical system, we use a decimal system, which really makes things incredibly straightforward, simple, understood. And through this decimal system of the 10 Sefirot, combined with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, you have what the ancient books, the ancient Kabbalistic Sfarim, would call the 32 paths of wisdom. These 32 paths of wisdom are literally the coding in which all of reality comes about. I'm talking about every stone, every chair, every person. We are all a combination and a coding of the Sefirot and the 22 letters. Can I give you an example? Check this out. The Hebrew word for cup is kos. And kos is comprised of the letters chaf, vav, samach. Now, we're going to take a cup filled with a candle. And we're going to see how we see these Hebrew letters, the coding of the Sefirot and the letters in this. You ready? First and foremost, we turn it to its side. And if we draw a shape right there, you got a letter. That is a chaf. If you have it just straight up, you got a vav. And if you got the rounded element, you got a samach. So literally every single cup spells out the coding of kos, of a cup. So too, we can go with a bunch of examples of this. But Hebrew is the essential coding, is the essential DNA. And the Hebrew letters channeled through these 10 Sefirot that we count through and that we embody in these times, that is literally how all of our reality, all of our universe came into being. Along with this counting, a very, very big part of Jewish mysticism is geometry, or as we like to say, gematria. Because in truth, the universe doesn't speak in mathematics. The universe displays itself in geometry, and mathematics is just an incredible study of understanding the ratios of the geometry in which the universe beautifies itself with. So we have these Hebrew letters, each one corresponds to a certain number. And when words share similar numbers with the same number, it means that these words are essentially tied. For a couple examples, the Hebrew word for love. The big question in the world, we even got a song for it. It goes, what is love? What is love? We're trying to figure it out. What is love? Well, love is Gematria 13. Another word that's Gematria for 13 is, you all know it, Echad, unity. Love is unification. Love is transcending myself and finding the pinnacle place in which all of us connect. And the way we see these codings of the world at play is through the Hebrew letters and is through the numbers and the Sefirot of the Hebrew letters. For example, we also see this loving interaction within the Sefirot themselves, because out of the 7 bottom, from Chesed to Malchut, the 6 of those are the masculine element, and the 7th is the feminine element, the initiator and the vessel. And they have a whole loving experience as well. So these are really the codings to teach us inner relationship dynamics and inner dynamics of the world itself. Okay, that's in counting. What about story? How is the Sefirot a story? And so really, the greatest story of all time is the story of life itself. Because until life comes along, there's no one to experience this goodness. Until Hashem comes on the 6th day of creation and brings humanity forward to dance with the forces, to struggle with right and wrong. Because no animal struggles with right and wrong. Every animal is instinctual. Every animal, every angel does exactly what it's meant to do. Humanity, only can we reach the highest heights and the deepest pits. And the story of humanity itself is embodied by the 7 Sefirot that we count throughout this time. How so? Well, it's told in the Jewish Kabbalistic texts that the first millennia of history corresponded to the first day of creation. Let there be light. Let there be light is an expression of huge kindness, of huge outward moving goodness. Explosive shefa. And this benevolence that comes down, the corresponding first millennia of history that corresponds to that first day, was as well an era of largeness, of hugeness, of benevolence. Yes, there were giants. This is not just a Torah source, although we don't need anything but the Torah to tell us this, but from a variety of sources, both from consistent stories across tons of storylines from separate places on the globe. They all have tradition of giants, and also some recent modern evidence that hasn't come to light so much, but giants were a real thing. Not only that, we have fossils of huge animals, of reptiles, you call them dinosaurs. This is all representative of the first millennia, where things grew huge, where there was a huge benevolence of the Sefira of Chesed, the first of the 7 Sefirot, shining in bigness. And in turn, every millennia corresponds to another one of these energetic points. The second millennia was Devorah, then Tiferet, then Netzach, then Hod, then Yesod. And we ourselves are right before the 7th millennia. The 7th millennia, which corresponds to the 7th day of the week, which is the Shabbat. And Shabbat, we're hoping, is going to lead us, and not just hoping, we know certainly, is going to lead us to this Yom Shekulo Shabbat, to this time where we live a millennia of what Shabbat is. And Shabbat is the time where we rest, not that we're passive, but that we're content, that we know we've done the work, both the work in the world around us and the inner work, and we can reap the beautiful presence, the beautiful beingness of Shabbat. And this is a time that we're coming to. This is a time we're coming to really, really soon. We're coming to a time where there will be harmony, where there will be peace, where I believe it's a harmony of both spiritual understanding and technological advancement. And when we have those two, technology and morality and technology and spirituality in tandem, it can't help but bring a beautiful reality around. And they're both emerging. They're both coming through. And so we see that the Sefirot are a story. We see the Sefirot from the first millennia of expansion to the final millennia of Malchut, of kingdom, where Hashem reveals his kingdom in the world, where Hashem's kingdom is the one that is dictating reality. And it's not the celebs, it's not the politicians, it's not all these people, which, by the way, just look at who's put on the news every day. Look at the people that are quote-unquote prototypes of our country, of our civilization. Every single one of them is caught cheating. Every single one of them is caught embezzlement. Every single one of them is caught doing things that are not aligned. What if, instead of putting those kind of people up on the world stage, we put people like this up on the world stage? We put the Lebowitz Rebbe, we put the Ariya Kadesh, we put the Baal Shem Tov. This is what the story of humanity needs to evolve to get to a place where the message of the divine, the message of the one God, is shining forward in the world for all to see. In addition to Sefira meaning counting, and in addition to it meaning telling a story, it also means radiance. How do we do it? How do we bring along this time of unity, of harmony? It is through radiance, shining. Because we all have the areas inside of us that are blocking us from shining. It's understandable. We all have a world of stories, a world of attachments, a world of identifications with certain labels of ourselves, and sometimes those are not met with reality, or too deeply met with reality, that it's hard to let our inner light shine through. But if we recognize that our inner light is not really ours, as Rabbi Nachman, the great Hasidic master, said, that we are just the channels of the divine, and the light is really that which is above us. So if a human being is not the light himself, but we are channels, we are vessels to allow a light to come through, as so apropos the name of this festival is, Light of the Infinite. If we can allow light to come through us, then we start shining in the world. Then interactions start being met with ease. Interactions start being reciprocated with good light. Maybe the reason we're not experiencing so much light in our interactions, in our relationships, is we're waiting for the other person to initiate. But maybe I have to recognize that inside of me already exists this light. Inside of me already exists this potential to bring goodness, to bring beauty to the world. And maybe I'm the initiator, or maybe I should say I am the channel to allow God, I am the channel to allow the great infinite to initiate through me. How do we do this? It sounds very nice and very hippie and spiritual, my friend. But to bring it down, how do we do this? Well, we're going to bring it down by going up. What do I mean? There was a book that really opened the eyes of many in Western society during the 50s and 60s. It was a book written by Aldous Huxley. You may be familiar with it. It's called The Doors of Perception. I don't want to go into the intricacies of that book. There was quite a few powerful experiences he had that led him to some deep recognitions of the universe. But fundamentally what he said, and what I so clearly in English, which is why I appreciate bringing it up, is he said that above every being, every human, exists a valve. Yes, I said a valve. And this valve is usually opened just the tiniest little bit, where the littlest bit drop of whatever's beyond the valve is coming in. And that little bit is responsible for everything that we have, our life, our actions, our movements, our thoughts, our intentions. This is the inner life force that guides us. But we have the capacity, as a species, as people that are really trying to rise up into our greatest calling, we have the capacity to open this valve. We have the capacity to go deep into ourselves. And if you go to the very epicenter, I'm talking about the very epicenter of being, we have heart and brain, but the brain is really the one where the first revelation of light is. And you go to the very epicenter of the brain, we have a pineal gland. And at the very epicenter of this pineal gland, we have, some would call it a chemical, dimethyltryptamine, but really we have a guide and we have a portal to a place beyond us, to a place beyond just this individual story of, yes, I was born in this town and I was born with this name and to these parents and this is what I've been doing so far and this is what I majored in and this is what job I'm working in and da-da-da-da-da-da. We have more to our story than just me, than just what happened in my biography. We have a story that connects us to both our ancestors and humanity and places well beyond this world. And we can access them. I know this sounds crazy, But if we are meant to step up into embodying the one God in this world, we have to be able to reach up a little bit through this ladder. And we have to be able to look up and recognize there really is a one God. Av echad al kulana, there's one God over all of us. And that one God then came to create a huge multiplicity of higher worlds as a blueprint for this world. And then then contracted this light and brought us back down to this world. But there is a way back up home. And the way we do it is through breathing. And the way we do it is through internalizing and going deeper into ourselves. The way we do it is recognizing I have more to me than just this story. And let me allow my inner being, my inner light to shine through. And the Sefirot, this geometric shape, is really indicative of a ladder. As Jacob's ladder, he experienced Sulam, Mutzav Alza, a ladder, firmly rooted on the ground. V'rosho mergia shamayma, and its head was deep into the heavens. This is who we are as human beings. We are a bridge, we are a ladder, firmly rooted on the ground. I'm not advocating for escapism. I'm advocating for being present in this world, but while in this world, recognize our true source and allow the highest light to come through us. And the way we do that, is through the system of the Sefirot. From the lowest one, from the Malchut, aka assess how am I acting. Then up to the constellation of Zeir Anpin, where is my emotional state at? Up through Chachma Bina Dat, my intellect, and then to Keter. Then to Keter is that bridge we talked about to something beyond me. So first I deal with it on the terrestrial plane, where how are my actions, how are my emotions, how is my thought process. And then once I get, I don't have to say you have to be perfect in all those, but once I get to a sufficient point of clarity where I'm operating from what feels authentic, then the Keter opens up to allow us to access higher places, higher realms, where we can both embark on this journey of the Sefirot again, because right after that Keter is another Malchut, just on a higher order of being. So it mirrors the same journey all the way up, but here I'm interacting not with as it plays out down here, but as it is in its meta root. Does that make sense? You're with me? You're doing awesome. All right? And God, by the way, I'm always available to be reached out, both on this Facebook, on Instagram. I would love to discuss this more if anyone both has questions and just wants to embark on this stuff more, or has something cool to share on the subject. Please come and teach me. Okay, so this is the definition of radiance, right? Once we open up to the higher lights within ourselves, once we open to our higher being, it allows radiance to come through. It allows light to shine forward in the world. It allows us to meet our interactions with joy and with kindness and not with blockages and fear. It allows us to show up. And finally, Sefirot, Sapir is sapphire. Sapphire. Okay, dude, what's up with this crystal thing? I thought that was like for New Age spirituality. Don't tell me Judaism got crystals in it too. Well, yes, my dude, Judaism got crystals. In addition to the breastplate of the high priest, which had a multitude of crystals, each one embodying one of the tribes of Israel, which not only were they like this cool, radiant experience, but literally the high priest would interact with God through the letters that were written onto the names of the tribes on the crystals. And you would ask it questions, and it would shine and it would light up, giving him direct divine answers. In addition to that, which crystals are, yes, very, very Jewish, my friend. What is the most Jewish experience of all time? What is the pinnacle? What is the peak? What is the point where we were in the highest state of a nation biyachad? I think we can all conclusively agree. It was at the giving of the Torah. And the giving of the Torah, well, man, we got the Torah, but we also got these 2 tablets. And these 2 tablets are kind of the meta root of the entire Torah, as I believe it is the Shalah Kadosh, that he traces every single one of the 613 mitzvahs back to one of the 10 commandments. And then he traces all the 10 commandments to the first 2 commandments, the root of the positive commandments and the negative commandment. Not positive and negative, but initiate to do and refrain from doing. And then both of those can be unified within the first commandment, Anochi, and that could be unified within the first word and in the first letter, the Aleph. This pinnacle, peak, legendary tablets that Moses brought down from the mountain which, by the way, probably were not rounded on top. They were probably squared on top. Side note. Moses bringing this down. Do you know what these were made out of? They were not made out of just regular old stone like the pictures show you. Or like the Charlton Heston movie shows you. I think that's his name. But in truth, God, before Moses went up on the mountain, God directed Moses. He said, Moshe, grab a shovel. Moshe, start digging in your tent. And Moshe's like, what? God's like, just try it, man. And Moses starts digging beneath his tent, digging beneath his tent, digging beneath his tent. And what does he find? He finds, touches a little stone. And that stone was sapphire. And he digs around it. And he digs around it. And there's more and more sapphire. And all of a sudden, Moses discovers a huge quarry of sapphire. Huge. So he utilized part of that sapphire in order to make the tablets, the Shnei Luchot HaBrit, and he actually got to keep the rest of the sapphire, making him the Warren Buffett, Elon Musk of his time. And he utilized these two sapphires, and they became the Luchot. And the Luchot are the embodiment of divinity embodied. Hashem in this world. That fusion on the mountain of divine coming and meeting humanity where they are. And you see the Ten Commandments, they're not like meditate all day, tap in. They're like, how do I live as a good person? Believe in the one God, respect your parents, don't kidnap, don't murder, have basic human laws that allow us to function as good humans. This is the ultimate embodiment of fusing heaven and earth. So, I want to thank you so much for being on this journey, and I want to end off with a bracha that Be'ezrat Hashem, throughout this time of Sefirat HaOmer, we can really embody the lessons that it has for us, both in the counting, which is its way in which it makes up the world around us and is the coding of the world, both in the story of the Sefirat HaOmer as it comes through 7 millennia, leading us to the 7th millennia of a time of harmony and unity, both in the radiance of Sefirat HaOmer, of opening ourselves up to the ladder of the Sefirot that are above us and allowing ourselves to access higher places within us, and to the sapphire of the Sefirot, to recognizing that every single one of us is an inner sapphire, has an inner gem, has an inner Torah inside of us that is already so authentic, that is already so light. And we don't have to strive for it. We don't have to strive for it. We just have to open ourselves up to who we truly are, and we'll find it's been waiting there for us this whole time. Thank you for joining. Big brachot to you. Big brachot on this journey. And I'm looking forward to meeting you again upon it.